of Club Express. We're now a part of a larger company called Lumiverse Technologies. So let me share my screen and we'll sort of jump in. There we go.
And Dan, while Dan's doing that, I just want to remind everybody to check and make sure that you're muted.
Okay, so this presentation is going to be a little bit of a hybrid. I know we have a number of people that are looking to start villages and interested in technology and technology used to run their village. We also have people that are already using RunMyVillage, powered by Club Express. Obviously we have people here that are using other technologies. Hopefully we can show you some things that will intrigue you. So let me click over here and we'll just move in. I'm going to go through a very, very quick introduction, just the basics of RunMyVillage, powered by Club Express. I'm going to talk about some of the enhancements we've added over the last couple of months and what's currently in development. And then what I'd like to do is jump in and do a demo, and we'll leave about 10-15 minutes at the end for questions. So Club Express was founded in 2003, launched in 2004. We run thousands of clubs and associations around the world. We are primarily a platform for organizations that are run by volunteers or with a very small staff that people join either through their personal lives or their business or professional lives. We started working with the Village to Village Network in 2009. And as many of you know, the Village to Village Network website runs on our platform. And then around 2010, we started talking to the network about adding special functionality for villages as a formal partner with the network. And over the years, we've continued to enhance that functionality. We work very closely with the users group. Our platform is currently on version 66. So we come out with new features for the general platform every 3 to 4 months, and for villages, once or twice a year. So with RunMyVillage, what we give you is a platform that allows you to basically run the whole front office and back office for the village. And that includes all of the things that you see here. I won't run through it because you can all read as well as I can. But certainly the website, the membership database, the volunteers, all of the services and requests that you provide, plus reports and communications and things like that. Very robust security and credit card processing also built in. And for all of that, we charge a one-time setup fee of $150, and that provides support during the setup process and importing your initial databases. There are also additional setup options available where we will sort of do more to help you build out and configure everything. We charge 32 cents per active member per month, and there's a minimum monthly hosting fee of $30. And that covers about the first 93 members of the organization. And that basically includes everything: the website, all of the features, as many photos, documents, emails that you want to send out. And it also includes unlimited toll-free telephone and email support. And those are the hours that we provide for phone support. In the spring and summer, the RunMyVillage users group put together a survey. They collected all of the enhancements that people had been asking for. And they put together a survey and asked each village to vote on those features that they felt were most important. And then they organized those and ranked them. There were 60 proposed enhancements. We went through the first batch of 20 of those, and 14 of those were approved to be added. There are some things that were requested that are just not compatible with the RunMyVillage platform. And at this point, we've deployed 9 of those enhancements, and I'm going to mention those in just a moment. We have 3 that are in testing, and there are 2 that are still in development, but should be done in the next week or so. And before the end of the year, we'd like to address the next batch of of 20 enhancements on that list, and eventually, go through all of them. So here are the ones that are done already, and you'll notice at the end of some of those that there's a little code which references back to the survey. So those of you that remember or have the documentation for the survey, you can go back and look at the details of what each enhancement does. So we now allow you to enter a service request with a date, but without a specified time, and so that the member and the service provider, the volunteer, can work out the time that works for both of them. We now have a status log for each service request, and there's a report that goes with that. So it allows you to track when the service request went through the different status values, who made the changes, and how it worked its way through the process. We now allow you to make copies of service requests for dates in the past. And you can also mark service requests without times as complete. You can confirm a service request with no providers, but we'll display an error message if you try to do so. There's a system email there that acknowledges receipt of a service request. The volunteer can enter the actual date and time once the service is complete. And we now allow you to change the service request type. So there's a new icon in the service request manager, and I'll show that to you. Confirmation and reminder emails now have a calendar option. And then there are a few small things that we added here that were not in the survey, but there were things that other villagers had requested. So in automated open requests, there's an email that goes out, and people wanted the font size to be bigger, so we did that. We re-enabled contractor ratings, and when you create a service request and save it, we now show you the service request number. Here's what's in testing right now. I won't run through these. You can see them right here. And of course, the session's being recorded, so you can come back and look at these slides. And there's a couple of things that are also in development as well. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to our demo club. So this is a fake village that we have, the Rolling Meadows village that we use to do demos. If you notice at the top of the screen, there is a URL here, demovillage.clubexpress.com. And you can actually go to this village, and I'll give you a username and password. Those of you that want to go in and explore, you're welcome to do that. So again, let's run through a demo, and I'll show you some of the features of RunMyVillage, again powered by Club Express. So you get all of the Club Express features as well as all of the village features. And we start out with all of the tools necessary to build and maintain the website, create a menu, create as many pages as you want, customize the homepage. And so here is, you really can do sort of anything you want on a website is also possible to do with Club Express. You can also customize the menu and create the pages that you want. So here is an About Our Village page, and very advanced graphic effects. And this part of the website can be as big as you want. And it's all designed to be used by people who are not techies. You don't need to come to us. You don't need to be a techie in order to build a nice, clean, elegant website. Members can sign up through the website. We also have an event calendar, and you can create pages and create events that allow members or non-members to register for those events as well. Now, what I'm going to do is log in, and I'm actually going to do this login as a different user. And here's the username and password that you want to use if you want to log into this demo website. The username is msmith, and the password in lowercase is hello. And I'll click the Remember Me option, and now I don't need to use that login anymore. It'll just log me in automatically. So now I'm on the second part of the website, which is the part for members only. So every member has their own username and password. They can log in, and now you have a part of the website that's for members. And again, as many pages and modules and features as you want. We have a lot of resources that are built in, the membership directory function, committees module, document libraries, a donations function that allows you to collect donations through the website, including different funds that you might have. And you can, track different properties and things like that. And we'll look at how those modules work in a moment. Every member has their own username and password, and then they have access to a member profile. And on the member profile, they can update all of their basic contact information. As a village, you can collect additional information about members that's not part of the basic database. And we'll look at some of the services functionality a bit later on. But we also maintain complete histories of the transactions and payments, the events that people have made, and different functions that are part of the website as well. So members can really maintain their own information without having to go back to the office to do that. And it's all again very interactive and very straightforward. Here is general contact information, spouse, partner, up to 2 addresses, and then other information. You can optionally collect work information if you want, and you can also collect emergency contact information as well. When you expand the database with additional data, you can talk about pets in the home, or are you still working? You can ask people to rate themselves with technology. And so you can have as many questions as you want, and the answers can be in about 25 different formats. So you collect the sort of information that's important to your village about your members. Okay. Now let's have just a quick look at how modules work, and then we'll jump in and look at the village specific features. I'm going to go into the donations module, and we looked at this one already. And if I want to make a donation to the general operating fund, I can click here, and I go into a form that allows me to specify the amount of the donation. The donation can be in honor of, in memory of, and you specify the details. You can write comments. How do you want your information to appear? You can also optionally allow people to donate anonymously. Do you want to notify someone about the donation? Do you work for a company that supports matching gifts? And various other questions that you might ask of your members when they make a donation. And then once that's done, they would proceed to a standard payment page where they can pay online securely by credit card, or they can print an invoice and mail in a check. And as administrators, you can record that payment. Now, the interesting thing about these modules is that they have a user side, which could be the public or members only, but they also have an admin side. And one way to get to the admin side is to click on this little widget at the side here, which had an edit link. So here is where you administer donation funds, and I can add a new fund, or I can edit an existing fund. Let's edit this one, for example. And we come into an interactive screen that allows me to specify the properties of the fund, the description, the name, and then, here are all the properties that you can specify. Do you want to allow anonymous donations? Do you want to allow recurring donations? Minimum and maximum amount? Do you have a goal? Do you want to show the goal? And an image that you might want to share that relates to the fund. So, you fill out this screen. It's very interactive. It's very straightforward. If you don't understand something, there is an online help system. So we click here and we load into our online help system. And we have fully context-sensitive help that's available for every part of the platform. And so now we're looking at the donations module. We also have how-to guides, and we have role-based help. So if you're a treasurer, there's help specifically for treasurers or for a membership director. There are also manuals that you can download that show you all of the content of the help system. And we can also jump over and look at videos. So in our YouTube channel, here are all of the videos that we have that relate to donations and managing, financial information. We have over 300 videos on our YouTube channel that are, video tutorials and recorded webinars as well. Now, when I jump back to the administration screen, I can also look at this grid, and there are a number of icons here. There's a legend that tells me exactly what each icon means. And when I click here, I can now see the details of all of the donations that were made into this fund. And if any donations were not paid, I can record the payments. If we have hundreds of donations here, I can also search in different ways. The idea with these modules is that they're very interactive. There's no programming involved. And once you understand how to use one module, you now understand how to use all of them. Now, it turns out that Martin is a full administrator. We have multiple levels of security built in, and you can have as many people as you need at each level. When I click on the administrative control panel, we redesigned this a couple of years ago to make it easier to use. With this administrative control panel, I have admin functions, which are used by admins only. I have these modules here. So for example, I can go to the Money tab. Here is the Donations module, and I can go to the admin side of the module as I did before, but I can also switch to View mode and go to the user side of the module, as we looked at before. So it's another way of basically, getting to modules. Here are the admin functions, here are the modules, and then here are setup functions, which you do only at the very beginning or very rarely. So for example, for your village, if you want to configure renewal and expiration settings, you can do rolling renewals, or everyone renews on the same date. You can configure multiple renewal notices that get sent out, and these can all be customized as well. And you can configure how the system should handle expirations. And once you've done that, we will now handle renewals and expirations for you automatically. Each of these functions, works, each of these tabs works the same way. We'll come back to services in a moment. When we look at website, these are all the functions related to maintaining the look and feel of the website, the pages, photo albums, the homepage. The Money tab, everything related to money. Everything related to the organization as a whole. And everything related to communications, including blast emails, surveys if you want to survey your members. You want to create your own forms, you can do that right here. Text messaging is also supported. And then, of course, the support tab. And we talked already about manuals and video tutorials and the online help system. And again, here's our support information and our toll-free phone number to call for support. If I go back to the People tab and look at the People Manager, this is basically both the member and non-member database for your village. So if I type in Smith and press enter, I see 2 members whose name is Smith. And as an administrator, I can update their profile. I can put them in different mailing list categories. I can view their bio. Again, there's a legend that shows you what all of these icons mean. But you can also create very complex search criteria to filter members in different ways. All of the different options that are available to find the members or non-members that you need to find. So here are some non-members in the database whose last name is Smith. And a slightly different set of icons. You can send them blast emails. You can look up their contact information very quickly. The idea is to be able to get you the information that you need as quickly and easily as possible. Now, you know, I mean, I can spend hours doing a demo like this, but obviously we don't have time to look at all of the features. What I'd like to do now is jump in and look at the features that are specific to villages. So the village features are all collected on this one tab called services. And again, here are the admin functions. Here are modules that are available, and we have a number of modules that are built in here. And here are the setup functions. So let's jump in and look at some of these sort of from the bottom up. We start out by looking at the services that your village provides. And those services can be organized into categories. So you create whatever categories you want. There's a lot of categories here. Most villages will have 5 or 6 categories. And of course, we can edit those categories as well. So let's have a look at friendly visiting. Here is the category. Here is a grouping, which will eventually link in to the taxonomy project that the Village to Village Network is working on. Is this category visible? And various other properties. Is it available to everyone or only selected member types? And in the color coding system, what colors do you want to use for this category? And you can see how all of these properties get reflected. Transportation categories get, need to be handled in a very specific way. So now we go back to the services and we have a look at, let's say, transportation. And I click search. And here are the different types of transportation services that a typical village will provide. So for those of you that are looking to establish a village, and I'm sure this was talked about in the introductory session, but obviously you need to decide what kind of services you're going to provide. We have villages running on RunMyVillage that have 100 different services that they provide, organized into about 8 categories. So there are different types of transportation that are available: family transportation, airport trips, medical trips, or pharmacy pickups, for example. And again, you can create whatever services you want. You create a service, and then you put it into a category. And then you decide if it's visible or not visible. Is it available for the volunteer self-sign-up function? And then any special instructions that relate to that service. When we look at, for example, technology help, here are the different kinds of technology help that your village might provide. And for example, if your Facebook help is being provided by a local college student and that person is away over the summer, well, you might turn Facebook help off. And when it's turned off, then you can't offer Facebook help over the summer. So, we try to give you as much flexibility as possible. So you start out by defining the categories and then the services. And then the next thing you do is you define the service providers. These are contractors, members who also volunteer, and non-members who volunteer. They might be stay-at-home mums or dads, or they might be college students, for example. So let's have a look at all of the member volunteers. You can filter them in lots of different ways. And so we have service providers who are in our databases. These are members, and they're also volunteers. The last service they provide, you might enable ratings. There's a whole vetting system that allows you to determine whether those providers are fully vetted. And of course, you can then edit all of their information and you can link them to the services that they provide. So for example, Steve Allison, here are all the services that this village provides. Steve is happy to help with a Mac, run errands, do grocery trips. But for example, Steve is not a plumber. So we're not going to check the plumbing box because that's a service that Steve can't provide. So essentially, we have a series of services that the village provides. We have a series of service providers, and now we have to link them together. And we do that on this exact screen. We can also control when Steve is available. So there are different time slots available in different days of the week. And we can, control those very easily. And so when it comes time to find someone who will run errands, if it's on a Monday, well, then Steve's name would not pop up. But if it's on a Tuesday and they need the errands to be run, say at 10 o'clock in the morning, then Steve's name would pop up because that box is checked. There's also a vacation calendar, and then here is the vetting. There's the vetting system. Keep forgetting where it is. Every village has different vetting requirements, and part of that is governed by state and local law, and part of that is governed by the policies of your own village. So we have the ability for you to create your own vettings. There's also a number of them built in. So for example, state law might require that you run a sex offender background check. And you can enter the information. I'm logged in, so it enters that information. And I then create that vetting. And what defines a provider who is fully vetted is different for every village. So we don't automatically determine who is fully vetted. That's up to you to decide that. So once all of these things have gone through, you then check this box or uncheck this box. You can also have vettings which expire. So things like insurance and driver's licenses need to be renewed. Those vettings need to be renewed on a regular basis. Okay. You can also create your own vettings. So there's a standard list, but you can also add your own. So, some villages will require, you might want your service providers to go through a half-day orientation program on the expectations and policies of the village, things like that. For transportation requests, we allow you to enter standard destinations. So you can have, the local medical center or the airport or the supermarket that, most of your members go to. And that makes it much easier to enter service requests. Okay, so let's jump in and have a look at how service requests work. And we jump in and we come to this screen that allows us to filter the available service requests based on numerous criteria. There are request types. So here are the basic 4 types of requests. And you can see those also listed down here. Transportation, home requests, a contractor referral. You can also turn all of some of these off. If your village doesn't do contractor referrals, you can simply turn that option off. And office time requests as well. Here are the different categories, and they're all color-coded. You can filter by status, by provider type, the member, the service provider. If a service provider calls up and says, sorry, I can't do any services because I just got COVID, well, then you want to find all of the services provided by that provider that are coming up so that you can reassign them. And, lots of different options here. So let me just click the search button and we see a series of service requests. Now you'll notice these are also color-coded. So these green with black text happen to be transportation requests. Here are member home requests. Here is a different kind of transportation request, so it's got a different color coding. Now, I can edit this request, I can mark it as complete, I can cancel it, I can delete it instead of keeping it. I can also copy it. And if I copy it, I can do individual copies, I can do repeating copies in lots of different ways. So you might have members that have weekly appointments for maybe they're a diabetic, for example. You can also make copies without a date that then get assigned later. You can write notes, and here is this new feature where you can change the type of a service request. So you can change it to one of those different types and assign it to a new category. So let's actually create a new request, and we're going to create a transportation request right here. And I should have mentioned earlier, by the way, that we have a couple of folks from our support customer success team who are also on the call and are monitoring the chat sessions. So hopefully, as you're asking questions in the chat, they are there answering those questions. Okay, so here we start out with a transportation request, and I'm going to select the member, and I'm just going to click Ham, and here is Nick Hamilton. We use him a lot. And here is Nick's information that pops up immediately, including his expiration date, plus also an alert for this member. Nick has a walker and special shoes. Important to know. So the requested date, let's select a date in the near future, let's say next Tuesday, and the initial pickup, you can specify the time if you want. Let's say 9:30 a.m. and it's a 10 o'clock appointment, and the return would be 11 a.m. and the drop-off would be 11:30. You can specify all of these, none of them, any combination of them. Is the date time flexible? Is it high priority? And again, some of these options can be turned off. If your village doesn't track high priority requests, you turn that off. Doctor's appointment, we'll keep that simple. So the transportation to medical is the category, and it's a medical trip. We fill that in automatically because there's only one service under this category. If we selected a category, then it would be a different service. So it's a medical trip. Is it available for online sign up? And we fill in Nick's home address automatically. And now we can select let's say the medical center. And there it is, and we specify that address as well. Is it a one-way trip or a round trip? And if it's a round trip, is there only one driver, or could there be multiple drivers? So once you've specified the basic information about the service request, we then jump in and we can now see all of those volunteers who are fully vetted and who are available on Tuesday mornings. So it automatically filters this list to only those volunteers who are applied. Now, if I turn fully vetted off, it expands the list. But again, that's up to each village to say whether you're only going to use fully vetted volunteers. Do I want to show everybody? Not just the people who are available on that day. And so you can filter this in different ways. For those villages that serve a larger area, and for those villages that are hub and spoke villages, we have this feature called metro areas, which allows you to filter by communities within your service area, or if it's a hub and spoke, you can filter by a specific spoke. Now, what I'm going to do is then I'm going to select 4 people, and I'm going to click select. And what I've done now is I've added 4 people to this service request that I'm now going to see if they're available to fulfill this request. And I can even select 2 people. Now we have some people here that we contact by email or by phone. So someone by phone, I can click, and assuming they have a phone number, let's see here, there's a phone number. So I can click that, give them a call, see if they're available. If it's contact by email, then I click this button and it's going to send them a request. If I need to resend the request, I can do that as well. When I send them the request, it's going to say, change the status automatically to emailed. If I call them, I can change the status to called. If I have to leave a message, if they're not available, I can manage the status, to a very fine degree until I find someone who says, yes, they're available to do the service request. Now, along the way, I can remove them if they say they're not available. I can check the notes. I can update their availability, or that I can view their history. So they might have, previous requests, show more than 30 days worth of history. There we go. And I can view their ratings to see if they might be suitable. At the point at which I have 2 people who are selected, I can then send the confirmation email. And all of these emails, by the way, can be customized. And for those people who are not selected, I can send the not needed email. And then there's a few other things that need to be filtered here. So you can work the service request over, a series of days if necessary. You can manage the status if it's pending. If we've sent out the confirmation emails, then the status would be changed automatically to confirmed. We have a default staff person who'd be responsible. Maybe I'll take over this one because I'm logged in as Martin Smith. And then I work my way through the service request. Now, in addition to managing the requests manually, we also have 2 methods that allow you to manage the service requests automatically. And by the way, we just saved that request, and now it took us down here, and here is the request that we just entered. It's a transportation request that's confirmed. We have 2 service providers assigned. We can again see their contact information. And then we have these icons here, and we can even split this into 2 separate requests. So that's an additional option that's available there. And we can resend the confirmation emails and change the type. And here is Nick's information as well if we need to contact him. As I said earlier, we have a couple of ways in which service requests can be fulfilled automatically. So when I go back to the control panel, I also have available this volunteer self-sign-up. Now, this is a module that's available to allow volunteers, both members and non-members, to log in, see what service requests are available, and sign themselves up. So as a volunteer, I can log into this screen. I can see the details of this request. Let's assume it's in the future. And then I can confirm that I'll do it. And so some villages allow volunteers to do that automatically. And we call that the pull model, meaning we pull the volunteers in, they see what's available, they sign up themselves. And as a village, you can let them do the whole sign up and they're done. Or you can say that once they sign up, that the village administrator needs to confirm that. The other feature that we have is that we can push the service requests out to to our volunteers, and we call those automated open requests. And so here we have open requests that are pending approval. So you'd use this screen if you configure this feature where members and non-member volunteers can sign up automatically. You have to approve that. Now, all of that is configured under service options. So here's our service options screen. There are a lot of configuration options. So for example, you can turn certain requests off if you don't do priorities, if you don't support custom fields, you can turn all of those off. If you're not doing contractor referrals, you can turn that off completely as well. Here are all the configuration settings for service requests themselves. So who's the default responsible staff person. You know, it's one of your administrators. What is the default priority, down to this feature that says automated email open requests. And how often do you want to send those out? If you're doing it weekly, do you want to do it on a Wednesday? If you're doing it daily, which days do you want to send them out? Maybe every Monday and Thursday. And looking forward, how many service requests do you want to include in the email? And then do those emails go to member volunteers? And member volunteers can sign up directly from the email. They click a link, boom, they're signed up. Non-member volunteers, maybe they get an email and they can click on a link and request it, and then they have to be approved. And maybe it doesn't go to contractors. When volunteers sign up, are the requests confirmed, or is it pending approval? And who do you want to notify when a volunteer signs up? So this is the push model, where we're pushing these requests out to our volunteers. And this is the other side of that, the pull model, where you allow volunteers to come into the website and sign up themselves. And some villages work one way, and some villages work the other way, and some villages work both ways. You know, the point is, we want to make this as powerful and as flexible as possible. You know, we know there are villages there that have, you know, hundreds of members and you know, thousands of requests that they fulfill every month. And, you know, we want to provide a platform so that as your village is established and as you start to grow within your communities, that you have the power and the flexibility to really run the village as effectively as possible. Okay. Obviously, there are hundreds of reports built in. I mean, you know, when you look at basic member and non-member data, here are, you know, 60 or 70 reports available. These are basic contact lists, membership info, mailing labels, all of that's available as well. You know, numerous reports, and these reports all have filtering and output options. When you're dealing with money, we integrate with QuickBooks, and we also have reports at both the transaction and payment levels. Here are typical transaction reports, and you can filter by different accounts. You can filter by date range, and then you can filter by output options. I'm not sure if we have any villages or villages in formation that are outside the US, but Club Express and RunMyVillage is fully internationalized in English. So obviously we support international A4 size paper. At the village services level, we also have a ton of data exports built in. So these create raw data that you can load into Excel or another program to analyze in detail. And we also have numerous reports that are available for tracking service requests and for tracking service providers. I believe this is a new report that we've just added, office time requests specifically. And then for requesting members, there are service requests by members. And then there are reports by volunteers and service providers, including name tags as well. We do have a couple of special modules that are available. One of those is a module that allows people to become a service provider. So you can put this on the public side of your website, where I'm interested in volunteering or I'm a contractor. You collect the basic information, and then we take them to a second screen that allows them to enter the services that they might be interested in providing. And once that's filled in, we send an email to a designated person, administrator within the village, and you can then follow up with that person. We also have a module that you can place on the members side of the website. You know, some villages, if a member calls up and says, I need a plumber, I have a leaky faucet, some villages will help you find a plumber and you know, do that as a service request. So I could do this as a contractor referral. So you'll see it's a very similar form to the one we just had, but this time I need indoor home services and I need a plumber. So let's find all of the plumbers. Well, we've got Jim and Bill are our two plumbers, and I can click select, and I can just click here and send that info to the member. So as a village, you can do that very, very quickly and easily through your list of vetted contractors. Some villages say that the office doesn't need to do that. Our members are smart enough to do that themselves. And so we have a module that you can put on the public side of your website that says, find a village contractor. So here it is. I'm going to say indoor home services, and I'm going to say plumber, and it immediately comes up with, here is Jim's Plumbing, and here is Sullivan Plumbing, and there's the information on Jim and Bill Sullivan. So again, it's up to your village whether you want those sort of requests. First of all, whether you do them. Secondly, whether you want those requests to go through the village office, or whether you want them to be self-service, where the member can just do that themselves. Okay. I think this is probably a good place to stop. There's, you know, again, lots of things I can show you. We have a team here in the office that would be happy to give you a more detailed demo if you're a village in formation or if you're looking to make a change. Obviously, if you're an existing village and you have questions about anything that we've talked about, we have a very experienced and talented support team here in our Chicago office. Call our toll-free number, you press 1 for support, and they'd be happy to answer your questions. But I think at this point, what I'd like to do is stop, and I'll ask if there's someone on the Club Express team who would unmute themselves and see if there were any questions asked in the chat session that you know, I should answer for everyone.
Hey, Dan, this is Devin.
Hey, Devin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, one directed straight at you was what are our most popular functions? And they also asked, what functionality do you wish people would use more often?
Well, that's an interesting one. Well, you know, I mean, some of it obviously is functions that are built into the underlying Club Express platform. And, you know, I mean, pretty much everyone is using the People Manager to manage their members and non-members. You know, we hope that villages would use the interests function so that you could ask your members, you know, what are they interested in? Do they like playing bridge or mahjong? Are they interested in doing visits to the theater or movies or the local mall, where you could organize, you know, group outings? If there's a show at a local gallery, you know, so you can use the interests module to collect that sort of information about your members and then create the sort of events or activities that members would be interested in. So I think that's one that we'd like members to use more often. Obviously, almost everyone is using the event calendar, which is a very powerful module. And you know, we have a lot of you know, resources and training material for that. In terms of village functions, I think, you know, standard destinations is one that you know, villages should look at more closely. It just makes it easier to enter, you know, some villages for their transportation requests. I mean, you know, 80 or 90% of those requests are going to the same set of destinations. I do wish that villagers would take some time to look at the service options screen, because there's really a lot of configuration settings here, and we've periodically added new ones. If you haven't looked at this screen, it's definitely one that you should look at. Have a look at the help screen and understand how these different options apply to your village. What's next?
We did have someone ask, who is doing the rating when a service request is completed? Is it the person receiving the service or the person providing it? I think
that's a great question. Okay, so let me make sure that ratings are enabled. Provider ratings. Let's turn that on, and we'll go down and click save. Okay, so we'll go to member services, and we'll find a service that happened recently. Let's go down here. Here we are, Nick Hamilton. There was a home request. So we're going to mark this one as complete. And there were no service providers for that one. I should have picked one that had a provider. Here we are. Oh, we picked Lisa. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. So there's a couple of different ways of handling this. Again, with RunMyVillage, we try to give you lots of different options. What a lot of villages do with the completion function is that they have someone in the office call the member about that service request. So they say to the member, Lisa provided some ESL services, and they ask the member, how would you rate? And you can rate these on a scale of 1 to 5 in half instances. So Lisa was great. She did a wonderful topic. Lisa did a great job. So this is a comment provided by the member. What a lot of villages do also is that they will call the service provider and say, how did that request go? And Lisa might have a comment that says something like, I noticed that Harry seems to be more forgetful. Or maybe the house was in a bit of disarray. And those are the sort of things that the village, again, might want to know, so that they can then follow up with the family member or with a designated healthcare provider to check in with the member and see that things are going okay. When you complete a service request, you can also track how long the service request took. If it was a transportation request, how many trips were involved. So maybe there were 2 trips and it was 10 miles. And if there were any expenses, maybe we spent $4 on parking. And who was the person who verified that information? Now, the reason why this information is important is that many villages go out to local foundations to look for grants. And when you do that, you might want to say, during the past 12 months, we provided 3,000 hours and 523 trips and drove this many hundreds of miles and spent this much helping to support the seniors within our community. So we have reports that are built in, and if the village is able to collect this information, you can then aggregate it and print it out in those reports and be able to use that when you're going to local foundations or government entities to apply for grants. So the other thing about this is that in order to get comments from the member, you have to contact them. But for provider comments, the service provider can actually complete the service request themselves. If you're using the volunteer self-sign-up function, they can complete that request themselves, and then they can enter their own comments and enter all of this information. So someone in the village office doesn't actually have to do that. Okay. What's next? We've got 3 or 4 minutes before we need to wrap up.
Yeah, we had one more question about vetting. Someone asked, how are contractors and providers vetted? Is it by member recommendation or another method?
Well, the vetting is really however each village decides to do it. So when you select vetting types, here are all the vetting types that are built in. Some of those are system types, but villages can also add their own. So, for example, 5 basic steps for volunteers. You can turn that one off if you don't happen to use that one, and add your own instead. So the vettings are done by the village, and it's a process that has to be done, somewhat manually. So with your service providers, we have a list of service providers here. Let's look at Bob Doe. Here is vettings, and you need to go through a process. If your state requires you to do a background check authorization, emailed form to member, received back today, whatever. Okay. So now we've added that information. We got the authorization from Bob Doe to do a background check, which many states require. Now we actually have to do the background check. And once we've done the background check, then we need to edit the vetting. Maybe your state or maybe your village board of directors requires 2 background checks. So we did a background check via vettings unlimited, whatever, nothing of interest. We should type. So we've now recorded the fact that we did a background check. So each village, as part of its policies and procedures document, will decide what vettings it's required to do by law and what vettings it wants to do by policy. And then for each service provider, you will actually be entering those vettings. You can also update them. And then if you pick something like, where is it? Driver's insurance, you'll notice that one has an expiration date. So maybe we're going to say that this one expires on 10/31/2023. Verified, full comprehensive. And so that gets entered as well. And it has an expiration date. And once you go through all of the vettings that are required, you can then, as I said, check that member off and flag them as being fully vetted. Okay, Devin, we have maybe time for one very quick question, or maybe we need to wrap up.
Yeah, I've got a quick one. Are the comments in the ratings page, are those confidential, and who has access to them?
The comments are not available to the member. They're available to administrators only, who have access to those specific screens. So if you're looking at the service history and you want to review the comments for that service history, those are available only to administrators. Okay. So I want to thank everyone for sticking with us. I know you're all hoping to hear from someone from AARP during this session, and hopefully they'll be able to be slotted in sometime in the next couple of days. But anyway, I wanted to thank you for joining us for this session about RunMyVillage. And if anyone has any further questions, wants to see a demo, then just feel free to contact our toll-free number. And again, here is the RunMyVillage website, runmyvillage.com. Here is our contact information right here, and there it is. And thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Dan, thank you so much, and thanks for stepping up and popping in the allotted slot. Hopefully Tanya will come back and talk to us another time, but actually very informational. I enjoyed it because I'm on, obviously, Club Express, Run My Village, so a lot of components. We are going to take this time, we have a break, so everybody can go stretch and grab a bite to eat, and we are going to reconvene in 15 minutes.
Okay.